brain architect. Redesign your reality in 30 days. Your mind is not a temple. It is a construction site. Right now, you are living in a house built by your insecurities, your childhood echoes, and the lazy habits of a version of you that no longer exists. You feel stuck because you're trying to decorate a crumbling foundation. We have 30 days. In the next 2 hours, we stop decorating and start demolishing. I am going to show you how to hijack your neurobiology, to fire the architect that failed you and become the one who wins. The blueprint is ready. The question is, do you have the courage to tear it all down? Chapter 1. The Myth of the Fixed Self. Listen closely. We are starting here because this is where every single failure begins. It begins with a lie, a comfortable, sedating, soul-crushing lie that you have been telling yourself since you were old enough to feel disappointment. The lie is this: this is just who I am. You say it when you miss a deadline. You say it when you snap at your partner. You say it when you look at the person you wanted to be and realize you aren't even in the same zip code. You shrug your shoulders, sigh, and claim that your personality is a finished product, delivered at birth and non-negotiable until death. I am here to tell you that who you are is a lie. What you call your personality is actually just a collection of reinforced patterns. What you call your nature is really just a set of neural grooves that have become so deep you've mistaken them for the floor. Biology is a suggestion, not a sentence. The escape hatch of identity. Why do you cling to this idea of a fixed self? Because it's easy. If you are naturally lazy, you don't have to feel guilty about the work you didn't do. If you are naturally hot-headed, you don't have to take responsibility for the bridges you burn. The fixed self is a psychological escape hatch. It allows you to avoid the grueling, manual labor of change. It's much easier to say, "I'm just not a morning person," than it is to admit you have a dopamine addiction to your smartphone that keeps you scrolling until 2 a.m. It's easier to say, "I've always been an overthinker," than to admit you lack the cognitive discipline to ground yourself in reality. You have a choice. You can remain a victim of your initial wiring, or you can become the architect of your evolution. Most people choose the former. They treat their brain like a museum, a place to preserve the past. I am demanding that you treat it like a construction site. Biology is a suggestion, not a sentence. The anatomy of the addict. Let's look at the chronic procrastinator. You know this person. Maybe you are this person. You've spent a decade telling people you work better under pressure. You've convinced yourself that your brain just functions differently, that you need the spark of a looming deadline to be creative. That is a delusion. In reality, your brain is simply addicted to the high-stakes dopamine hit that comes with a crisis. You aren't a procrastinator by nature. You are a dopamine junkie by habit. Your brain has learned that if it waits until the very last second, the surge of cortisol and adrenaline will provide a temporary, artificial focus. You've mistaken a survival mechanism for a personality trait. That's the key. Once you realize that your procrastination isn't a flaw in your soul, but a glitch in your reward system, the power shifts. It's not about finding your passion. It's about discipline. It's about recalibrating your neurochemistry so that you don't require a heart attack to finish a report. You don't need a new personality. You need a new blueprint. You don't need a miracle. You need a hammer and a set of nails. Biology is a suggestion, not a sentence. the hard truth of neuroplasticity. Science used to back your excuses. Old school neurology thought the adult brain was a static organ, hardwired and immutable. They were wrong. We now know the truth. The brain is plastic. It is constantly reconfiguring itself based on input. Every time you choose the difficult path, you are physically rewiring your hardware. Every time you resist the urge to complain, you are thinning the neural pathway of the victim and thickening the pathway of the architect. But here's the catch. The brain is lazy. It wants to take the path of least resistance. It wants to keep you exactly who you were yesterday because that version of you survived. The brain doesn't care if you are happy, successful, or fulfilled. It only cares that you are alive. It's not about who you are. It's about discipline. If you want to change, you have to fight your own biology. You have to be willing to feel the discomfort of new connections being formed. That itch you feel when you try to change a habit, that's not a sign to stop. That is the sound of the old architect being fired. You don't need their permission. You don't need your parents to tell you you've changed. You don't need your friends to validate your new routine. You don't even need your own brain to agree with you. You just need to execute the 30-day demolition. For the next 30 days, we are going to operate under a new law. We are going to strip away the labels you've used to hide from your potential. I'm shy. No, you have a habit of choosing silence over risk. I'm a perfectionist. No, you are afraid of being judged on an imperfect first draft. I'm just not built for fitness. No, you have a sedentary environment that you've refused to audit. Stop treating your flaws like heirlooms. They aren't precious, they are red, and if you don't cut them out, the whole structure will eventually collapse. You have a choice. You can stay in the fixed house. It's warm, it's familiar, it's also small, dark, and smells like regret. Or you can step out into the cold and start building something that actually reflects the person you claim you want to be. Biology is a suggestion, not a sentence. Transition to next chapter. You've stopped blaming your DNA. You've accepted that the fixed self is a myth designed to keep you safe and stagnant. You have reclaimed the right to change. But once you stop the internal chatter of, "This is just who I am," you will encounter a new enemy. It is the voice that lives in your head, narrating your every failure, mocking your every attempt at growth. To build the new house, you have to silence the old ghost. You mastered the myth of yourself. Now, let's go after the voice that tries to keep it alive. Chapter 2. Kill the internal narrator. There is a voice inside your head. You know the one. It's the voice that starts talking the moment your alarm goes off. It tells you that you need 5 more minutes. It tells you that the rain outside is a sign you should skip the gym. It tells you that the email you're about to send is too aggressive, or too weak, or just plain wrong. You've spent your entire life listening to this narrator as if it were the voice of God. You've treated its commentary as absolute, objective truth. I'm here to tell you that this voice is a liar. Your internal narrator is not a sage. It is not a guide. It is an uncreated stream of historical data, most of it outdated, biased, and rooted in fear. It is a survival mechanism designed for a world that no longer exists. Your brain is a billion-year-old piece of hardware running primitive software. It doesn't want you to be a CEO. It doesn't want you to be a visionary. It wants you to be safe. It wants you to stay in the cave where the lions can't find you. But there are no lions in your living room. There is only the narrative of the lion. Don't believe everything you think. The survival bias. Understand the architecture of the narrating mind. Your brain is constantly scanning for threats. This is called survival bias. In the wild, a rustle in the grass was a predator until proven otherwise. Today, that rustle is a missed call from your boss or a slow reply to a text. Your internal narrator takes that tiny piece of data and builds a skyscraper of catastrophe. It tells you that you're being fired. It tells you that your relationship is over. It tells you that you aren't enough. That's the key. The narrator doesn't work for your future. It works for your past. It uses every rejection you've ever felt and every mistake you've ever made as evidence for why you should stop trying. It is a protective layer of scar tissue that has grown so thick it started to choke your potential. You have a choice. You can continue to be the puppet of a primitive survival engine, or you can step back and recognize the noise for what it is. Just noise. Data is not destiny. Thought is not reality. Don't believe everything you think. The high performer's secret, third-person detachment. Look at the elite. Look at the operators who perform under extreme pressure. The surgeons, the fighter pilots, the ultra-marathoners. They have the same internal narrator you do. They have a voice telling them their lungs are burning or their hands are shaking. The difference is they don't identify with it. They use a technique called third-person detachment. They don't say, "I am exhausted." They say, "I'm noticing a sensation of exhaustion." They don't say, "I'm afraid." They say, "My brain is producing a fear response." It's not about fear. It's about discipline. When you distance yourself from the narrator, you strip it of its power. You become the observer, not the victim. Imagine you are standing on a bridge, looking down at a river. The thoughts are the debris floating by. You see a branch, a plastic bottle, a bit of trash. You see them, you acknowledge them, and you let them float under the bridge and out of sight. You don't jump into the water and try to grab the trash. You don't claim the trash as part of who you are. You are the bridge. The thoughts are just the river. You don't need their permission. You don't need the voice in your head to feel confident before you act. You don't need the narrator to stop complaining before you start the work. Confidence is a byproduct of action, not a prerequisite for it. If you wait for the narrator to give you the green light, you will die waiting. Don't believe everything you think. The behavioral transformation. Audit the noise. If you want to kill the narrator, you have to stop feeding it. Every time you argue with the voice in your head, you give it more energy. Every time you try to think your way out of a negative spiral, you are just adding more noise to the system. Here is what you are going to stop doing. Stop justifying. Stop explaining. Stop negotiating with yourself. When the narrator starts his routine, telling you why you aren't ready, give it a name. Call it the saboteur. Call it the coward. When it starts talking, acknowledge it. Oh, there's the coward again, predicting disaster. And then you move, you execute, you do the very thing the voice told you was impossible. It's not about your personality, it's about discipline. Your new behavioral instruction is simple. The 5-second rule of detachment. The moment you hear the narrator try to talk you out of a productive action, you have 5 seconds to physically move before your brain locks in the excuse. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Move. By moving, you prove to your nervous system that the narrator is not the one in charge. You are the architect. You are the builder. You are the one with the hammer. You have a choice. You can spend your life in a mental courtroom, constantly defending yourself against a prosecutor that you created. Or you can walk out of the courtroom and go build something. Don't believe everything you think. Redesigning the default. The narrator thrives in the dark. It thrives when you are tired, when you are scrolling aimlessly, and when you lack a clear objective. To kill the narrator, you must flood the system with intent. Transformation isn't a feeling. It is a mechanical process. You must stop identifying as the thinker and start identifying as the doer. The thinker is stuck in the past. The doer is engaged in the present. When you are fully engaged in a difficult task, when you are in the zone, the narrator disappears. That is not an accident. That is the brain prioritizing execution over commentary. That's the key. If the narrator is talking, you aren't working hard enough. If you have the energy to worry about what people think, you aren't focused enough on the mission. Silence is earned through intensity. Don't believe everything you think. The mandate. From this moment forward, you are on a thought fast. You will treat every negative, limiting, or fearful thought as unverified propaganda. You won't engage with it. You won't work through it. You will simply notice it and return to the task at hand. You are not your thoughts. You are the person who hears the thoughts. And once you realize that, the narrator loses his job. It can scream, it can cry, it can predict the end of the world, but it cannot move your hands. It cannot stop your feet. You don't need their permission. You don't even need your own permission. You just need to realize that the voice in your head is just a ghost in the machine. It's an echo of a version of you that died a long time ago. Stop letting a ghost drive the car. Don't believe everything you think. Transition to the next chapter. You've learned to view your thoughts as external data. You've learned that the narrator is a survival relic, not a source of truth. You've started to practice the discipline of detachment. But there is a reason the narrator is so loud. It's because you are feeding it. You are giving it the fuel it needs to keep screaming. You are flooding your brain with cheap rewards and digital junk that keeps your neurochemistry in a state of constant, agitated noise. To truly silence the narrator, we have to look at your reward system. You've killed the narrator. Now, it's time to clean up the environment that gave it a microphone. Chapter 3. The dopamine audit. You think you have a motivation problem. You think you were born without the drive that successful people seem to have in abundance. You look at your to-do list, feel a wave of exhaustion, and reach for your phone. You tell yourself you're just taking a break or looking for inspiration. Stop lying to yourself. You don't have a motivation problem. You have a chemistry problem. Your brain has been hijacked. You are living in a state of constant neurochemical bankruptcy. And until you audit your rewards, you will never have the energy to build the life you claim you want. You are trying to run a marathon while someone is siphoning the fuel out of your tank. Starve the distractions. Feed the focus. The reward threshold. Dopamine is the most misunderstood molecule in the human body. Most people think it's about pleasure. It's not. Dopamine is about anticipation. It is the seeking molecule. It is the chemical that says, look at that, crave that, go get that. It is the engine of desire. In a natural world, dopamine was hard-earned. You had to hunt for food. You had to build a shelter. You had to solve complex problems to survive. Your brain rewards you with a precise, controlled drip of dopamine for making progress. But we don't live in a natural world anymore. We live in a digital slot machine. Every notification, every infinite scroll, every high sugar snack, and every like is a massive, artificial spike of dopamine that you didn't earn. When you flood your system with these cheap hits, your brain does something dangerous. It protects itself. It downregulates your receptors. It raises the reward threshold. That's the key. If your threshold is set to the intensity of a TikTok feed, then sitting down to read a technical manual or write a business plan feels like physical torture. It's not that the work is too hard. It's that your brain is too overstimulated to find value in it. You have numbed your ability to feel the reward of real progress. You have a choice. You can remain a dopamine junkie chasing 15-second highs until you're 80 years old. Or you can recalibrate your hardware. Starve the distractions. Feed the focus. The novelist versus the scroller. Let's look at two brains. Brain A belongs to a deep work novelist. He spends 4 hours every morning in a room with no internet. His only input is a blank page and his own thoughts. Because he has eliminated cheap dopamine, his brain has become hypersensitive to the earned dopamine of a well-turned phrase or a solved plot point. To him, finishing a chapter feels like winning the lottery. He has a high-performance engine because he uses high-quality fuel. Brain B belongs to the scroller. She wakes up and checks her phone before her eyes are even fully open. By 9 a.m., she has processed 3,000 images, 4 outrage-inducing headlines, and 25 advertisements. Her dopamine receptors are fried before she even starts her workday. When she tries to focus on a complex task, her brain screams for more stimulation. She feels bored, but what she actually is withdrawing. It's not about laziness. It's about neurochemical discipline. The scroller thinks she needs more willpower. She doesn't. She needs an audit. She needs to realize that her personality as an unfocused person is just a side effect of her digital consumption habits. You don't need to find your passion. You need to lower your threshold so that reality becomes interesting again. You don't need their permission. You don't need a digital detox retreat. You don't need a life coach to tell you to put the phone in the other room. You just need to decide that your focus is worth more than the profit margins of a social media giant. Starve the distractions. Feed the focus. The 24-hour reset. Behavioral instructions. The audit begins now. We aren't going to taper off. We are going to go cold turkey on the junk. If you want to redesign the architecture of your brain, you have to stop the structural damage immediately. First, the digital fast. For the next 24 hours, you are cutting off all non-essential digital input. No social media, no YouTube, no news, no music, no podcasts. If it doesn't directly contribute to the specific task you are working on, it is a toxin. Second, embrace the boredom. When you feel the itch to check your phone, sit with it. That itch is the sound of your dopamine receptors recovering. Boredom is the space where creativity is born. If you never allow yourself to be bored, you will never allow yourself to be great. Third, earn the spike. From this moment forward, dopamine is a reward, not a right. You don't get the coffee until you write the email. You don't get the music until you finish the workout. You flip the script. You use the junk as a carrot to drive the work. That's the key. You are retraining your brain to associate dopamine with effort, not consumption. It's not about deprivation, it's about power. By starving the distractions, you are reclaiming the energy required to build your empire. You are making your brain hungry for real achievement again. Starve the distractions. Feed the focus. The cost of check-in. Every time you just check your notifications, you pay a switching cost that lasts up to 20 minutes. Your brain has to move from deep work to shallow processing and then try to crawl back. Most people spend their entire lives in this transition state. They never actually reach flow. Flow is the architect's highest state. It is where the blueprints become reality. But flow requires a clean neurochemical environment. It requires a brain that isn't constantly looking over its shoulder for the next notification. You have a choice. You can have a life of checking in, or you can have a life of checking off your goals. You cannot have both. You don't need their permission. Your friends don't need you to reply to their memes in real time. Your boss doesn't need you to be available at 11 p.m. The world will not stop turning if you become unreachable for 4 hours a day. In fact, that's exactly when you want to start moving the world. Starve the distractions. Feed the focus. Transformation. The dopamine audit. Look at your screen time. Look at your pantry. Look at your habits. Ask yourself, is this hit earned or is it stolen? Stolen dopamine makes you weak. It makes you passive. It makes you a consumer in a world of creators. Earned dopamine makes you dangerous. It makes you focused. It makes you the architect. Stop being a junkie for things that don't matter. Start being an addict for progress. It's not about finding balance. It's about choosing your addiction. I am telling you to choose the addiction that builds a legacy. Starve the distractions. Feed the focus. Transition to the next chapter. You've audited your chemistry. You've identified the leaks in your tank and you've started to plug them. You are beginning to feel the return of your natural edge. The world is looking sharper. Your tasks are looking smaller. But even with the best chemistry, a builder cannot work in a swamp. You can have all the focus in the world, but if your environment is designed for your failure, you will eventually collapse. To protect the new brain you are building, we must look at the physical world around you. You mastered your chemicals. Now, let's talk about the invisible hands that guide your every move. Chapter 4. Environment is invisible architecture. You think you are the master of your decisions? You think that when you choose the salad over the pizza or the book over the remote, it is a triumph of your iron will. You are wrong. You are a biological machine responding to the prompts of your surroundings. Most of what you call choice is actually just the path of least resistance. You aren't failing because you are weak. You are failing because your environment is designed for a version of you that you are trying to kill. Stop trying to be stronger. Start being smarter. Your willpower is a finite battery, and every time you use it to resist a temptation, you drain it. By the time 6 p.m. rolls around, that battery is dead, and you find yourself face down in the very habits you promised to quit. Design for the default. The willpower fallacy. We have been sold a romanticized version of grit. We love the image of the warrior resisting every urge through sheer mental force. In reality, the high performers you admire don't use willpower half as much as you do. Why? Because they have engineered their lives so they don't have to. If you have to decide to go to the gym every single morning, you will eventually decide not to. If you have to choose not to check your phone while you work, you will eventually check it. Every decision is a tax on your cognitive load. Every no you say to a distraction is a withdrawal from your focus bank. That's the key. The goal isn't to have more willpower. The goal is to make willpower unnecessary. You need to build a world where your good habits are the easiest possible thing to do and your bad habits are physically exhausting to attempt. It's not about being weak. It's about discipline. Specifically, the discipline of architecture. You are the architect. If the house is drafty, you don't stand in the middle of the room and try to will yourself to be warm. You fix the windows. Design for the default. Friction, the invisible hand. In physics, friction is the force resisting the relative motion of solid surfaces. In the brain, friction is the psychological barrier between you and an action. Imagine two scenarios. In scenario A, you want to go to the gym. Your clothes are in the back of the closet. Your shoes are in the garage. Your gym bag is empty. To get to the gym, you have to perform 6 different tasks before you even leave the house. That is high friction. Your brain looks at that mountain of micro tasks and decides that the couch, which is 0 friction, is the better option. In scenario B, your gym clothes are laid out on your nightstand. Your shoes are by the door. Your bag is packed and sitting in the passenger seat of your car. The friction is gone. The default action is to put on the clothes and go. You have a choice. You can spend your energy fighting the friction, or you can use your energy to remove it. Most people choose to fight, and they lose. They treat their environment like a neutral background. It isn't neutral. It is either an accelerator or a brake. You don't need their permission to rearrange your life. You don't need to explain to your family why the TV is now in the closet or why the router is on a timer that cuts the internet at 10 p.m. This is your construction site. If the tools are in the way of the progress, move the tools. Design for the default. The kitchen counter trap. Let's look at a real-world disaster. The modern kitchen. Most kitchens are designed by food companies, not by health-conscious architects. They are filled with visual cues, brightly colored boxes, clear jars of snacks, a toaster sitting prominently on the counter. Every time you walk into that room, your brain sees those cues. It doesn't matter if you aren't hungry. The visual trigger initiates the dopamine loop we talked about in Chapter 3. You find yourself eating a cracker or a handful of cereal, not because you chose to, but because the environment commanded you to. Now, imagine a kitchen where the counters are bare. The snacks are in a high cabinet that requires a step stool to reach. The fruit bowl is the only thing visible. You have just increased the friction for the junk and decreased the friction for the fuel. You haven't changed your nature. You've just changed the architecture. It's not about your cravings. It's about discipline. The discipline to curate what your eyes see. If you see it, you will eventually want it. If you want it, you will eventually do it. Design for the default. Behavioral instructions. The environmental audit. Today, you are going to perform a structural audit of your primary spaces, your office, your bedroom, and your kitchen. You are going to look for triggers and friction. Step 1. The visual purge. Remove every visual cue that triggers a habit you want to break. If you spend too much time on your phone, buy a physical alarm clock and put the phone in a different room before you go to sleep. If you watch too much TV, unplug it. Make the screen a dead object until you consciously decide to use it. Step 2. The path of least resistance. Identify your number one goal for the next 30 days. Now, look at your environment. What can you do right now to make that goal the default action? If it's writing, leave your laptop open on your desk with the document already loaded. If it's hydration, put a gallon of water on your desk the night before. Step 3. The 20-second rule. If you want to stop a behavior, make it take at least 20 seconds more to start. Put the batteries for the remote in a different room. Delete the social media apps so you have to log in via a browser every time. That 20-second gap is often all the time the architect needs to override the narrator. That's the key. You are creating a buffer zone between impulse and action. You are giving your higher brain a fighting chance. Design for the default. You are the builder and the building. You must understand that your environment is a physical manifestation of your priorities. If your desk is a mess, your mind is a mess. If your home is filled with distractions, your life will be a series of reactions. You cannot build a cathedral in a trash heap. You cannot expect high-level cognitive performance in a space that is constantly screaming for your attention. Stop being a passive tenant in your own life. Start being the landlord. Evict the habits that aren't paying rent. You have a choice. You can be the person who is constantly trying harder, or you can be the person who made it impossible to fail. The world wants you to stay reactive. The world wants you to be a consumer. But you are an architect. You don't need their permission to be radical. You don't need to find a balance. You need to find a blueprint that works and execute it without apology. Design for the default. Transformation. Ownership of space. Your environment is the invisible architecture of your soul. When you change the space, you change the person. Within 30 days of designing for the default, your brain will stop fighting you. It will accept the new patterns because they are the easiest ones to follow. You aren't a victim of your surroundings unless you choose to be. Take the hammer, move the furniture, hide the triggers, build the fortress. It's not about luck, it's about discipline. Transition to the next chapter. You've cleared the wreckage. You've audited your chemistry and redesigned your physical world. You are now standing on a solid foundation, ready to build something of substance. But as you begin to move, as you begin to execute, you will feel a familiar pull. It's the pull of the other. You will start to wonder what people think of your new routine. You will feel the urge to show off your progress, to seek a pat on the back, to prove that you are changing. This is a trap. It is a leak in your energy that will bankrupt your transformation before it's finished. You've mastered your space. Now, we have to master your ego. See you in the next chapter. Chapter 5. Stop proving and start doing. You are leaking energy. Every time you open your mouth to tell someone what you're going to do, you are paying a tax. I call it the validation tax, and it is the most expensive mistake you are making. You think that by sharing your goals, you are creating accountability. You think that by posting your progress on social media, you are inspiring others. Stop lying to yourself. You aren't seeking accountability. You are seeking a premature reward. You are trying to feel the pride of the finish line before you've even put on your shoes. That's the key. When you announce a goal, your brain receives a hit of dopamine similar to the one it would get if you actually achieved it. You feel satisfied. You feel seen. And because you've already tasted the reward, your drive to do the actual grueling work evaporates. You've already spent the currency of your ambition on the approval of people who don't even care if you succeed. You have a choice. You can be the person who talks about the life they want, or you can be the person who builds it. You cannot be both. Stop proving and start doing. The ghost of performance. Most people live in a state of performance. They are constantly looking at their own lives through the eyes of an imaginary audience. They choose their hobbies, their clothes, and even their career paths based on how they will look in a status update. This is the death of the architect. An architect builds for the integrity of the structure. A performer builds for the applause of the crowd. When you operate for an audience, you are inherently weak. Why? Because your self-worth is tied to an external variable you cannot control. If the likes don't come, the work stops. If the pat on the back isn't there, the discipline fades. You have outsourced your motivation to a group of people who are too busy worrying about their own validation to care about yours. You don't need their permission. You don't need the world to acknowledge that your plan is good. You don't need your friends to understand why you're waking up at 4 a.m. In fact, if they do understand, you probably aren't being radical enough. The crowd only understands the middle of the bell curve. If you want to live at the edges, you have to accept that you will be misunderstood. It's not about ego. It's about discipline. The discipline to sit with your own potential in total silence. Stop proving and start doing. Proving is an amateur trait. Watch an amateur at the gym. They spend more time adjusting their tripod and checking their lighting than they do under the bar. They need the world to know they are grinding. Now, look at the professional. Look at the elite athlete who has been in the game for 20 years. They are often the quietest person in the room. They don't have a camera. They don't have a brand focused on their effort. They just have the work. The professional knows that effort is a private matter. They know that every word spent explaining the work is energy taken away from the work itself. They don't need to prove they are tough. The results prove it for them. That's the key. Results are the only objective truth in this world. Everything else is just marketing. If you are truly moving toward your goals, the evidence will eventually be impossible to ignore. You won't have to tell people you've changed. They will see it in the way you carry yourself. They will see it in your bank account, in your physique, and in the quality of your output. You have a choice. You can spend your life trying to convince people you're a lion, or you can just go hunt. Lions don't broadcast their intentions. They move in silence until the job is done. Stop proving and start doing. Behavioral instructions, stealth mode. For the next 90 days, you are entering stealth mode. This is a total blackout of your intentions. You are going to stop the announcement phase of your life and move directly into the execution phase. Step 1. The silence mandate. Stop talking about your goals. If someone asks what you're working on, give them a vague, boring answer. Just staying busy. Working on some personal projects. Do not give them the satisfaction of a vision. Keep the fire inside you. When you keep your goals to yourself, the pressure builds. That pressure is what fuels the work. When you talk, you let the steam out of the engine. Step 2. Delete the proof. Stop documenting your process for public consumption. If you take a photo of your work, keep it in a private folder for your own review. Use it as data, not as bait for likes. If you can't do the work without showing it to someone, then you aren't doing the work for yourself. You're doing it for them. Step 3. Internal validation only. Every night, audit your day. Did you follow the blueprint? Did you maintain the discipline? If the answer is yes, that is your reward. You don't need a comment section to tell you that you did a good job. You are the architect. You know the math. If the building is standing, you've succeeded. It's not about being secretive. It's about discipline. It's about preserving the sanctity of your ambition. Stop proving and start doing. The high cost of the pat on the back. Seeking validation is a form of addiction. Every time someone tells you, "Good job," your brain gets a hit. Eventually, you become a validation junkie. You stop doing the things that are hard and start doing the things that get the most immediate praise. This is how high-potential individuals become mediocre. They trade their long-term legacy for short-term social credit. You must become praise-proof. You must treat compliments with the same skepticism you treat insults. Neither one changes the reality of the work. If 1,000 people tell you your bridge is beautiful, but the physics are wrong, the bridge will still fall. You don't need their permission to be great, and you certainly don't need their applause to stay great. True power comes from the ability to stand in a room alone and know with absolute certainty that you are the man or woman you claim to be. That's the key. Character is what you do when the cameras are off. If your discipline disappears when no one is watching, then you never had discipline. You had a performance. Transformation. The weight of silence. Silence is heavy. It's uncomfortable. It forces you to face your own inadequacies without the buffer of other people's opinions. But that weight is what builds the mental muscle. When you stop looking for external proof, you are forced to find internal truth. You are rebuilding yourself from the inside out. This requires a level of focus that a performer can never achieve. You are the builder and the building. Every brick you lay in silence is a brick that belongs solely to you. No one can take it away because no one gave it to you. You have a choice. You can be a shadow of other people's expectations, or you can be a solid, undeniable force of nature. It's not about being humble. It's about discipline. It's about recognizing that your energy is your most precious resource, and you refuse to waste another drop of it on the validation tax. Stop proving and start doing. Transition to the next chapter. You've learned to move in silence. You've shut down the performance and entered stealth mode. You are finally building for yourself, not for the crowd. The pressure is building, and the work is finally becoming the reward. But as the noise of the world fades, a new challenge arises. Now that you are working in the dark, you will be tempted to rush. You will want the results now. You will want to skip the foundational layers and jump to the penthouse. This impatience is the final weapon of the narrator. You've mastered your ego. Now you must master your pace. Now, on to the next chapter. Chapter 6. The Discipline of Silence. You are wrong. Silence is the presence of control. It is the refusal to leak energy into things that do not move the needle. Most people are terrified of silence because, in the quiet, they are forced to confront the architect they haven't become. They fill their lives with background music, podcasts, and constant conversation to drown out the sound of their own potential screaming for expression. I am telling you to shut it down. Silence is the highest form of power, the reactive leak. Every time you react to a critic, you are giving them your power. Every time you explain yourself to someone who doesn't matter, you are draining your battery. We live in a world that demands a reaction. The narrator we killed in Chapter 2 thrives on engagement. It wants you to fight, to argue, to defend, and to chatter. That's the key. Reaction is a choice. You don't have to answer the phone. You don't have to reply to the comment. You don't have to win the argument at the dinner table. When you remain silent in the face of provocation, you are holding your energy inside. You are keeping the steam in the engine. You have a choice. You can be a reactive pinball bouncing off every external stimulus, or you can be the black hole that absorbs the noise and stays unmoved. It's not about being nice. It's about discipline. Silence is the highest form of power. The internal sanctuary, high performers, the elite snipers, the grandmasters, the surgeons, operate in a state of profound internal silence. Their external environment might be chaotic, but their internal architecture is still. They have built a sanctuary where the noise cannot reach. This is where the real work happens. You cannot solve a complex problem if your brain is vibrating with the residue of a Twitter argument. You cannot build a legacy if you are constantly looking for the next hit of social interaction. Silence is the laboratory of the soul. It is the only place where you can actually hear the truth of your own progress. You don't need their permission to disappear. You don't need to apologize for not being available. Availability is the enemy of excellence. If you are always reachable, you are never focused. If you are never focused, you are never building. Silence is the highest form of power. The conversational audit. Look at your conversations over the last 24 hours. How much of it was necessary? How much of it was just noise? We talk to fill space. We talk to feel important. We talk because we are uncomfortable with the weight of silence that we discussed in Chapter 5. From this moment forward, you are going to treat your words like currency. You are going to stop spending them on things that don't pay interest. Stop complaining about the weather. Stop gossiping about people you don't even like. Stop narrating your every move. It's not about being antisocial. It's about discipline. When you speak less, your words carry more weight. When you stop leaking energy through your mouth, you start building it in your hands. That's the key. A man or woman of few words is a person who is busy doing the things that most people only talk about. Silence is the highest form of power. Behavioral instructions. The silent operator. The discipline of silence is a physical practice. You are going to train your nervous system to exist in the quiet without panic. Step 1. The first hour. The first hour of your day is a silent zone. No music, no podcasts, no talking. You wake up, you move. You execute your morning routine in total silence. You are setting the default for your brain as a creator, not a consumer. If you can't sit with yourself for 60 minutes without external input, you aren't an architect, you're a prisoner. Step 2. The hold rule. Before you speak, hold the thought for 3 seconds. Ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this true? Does this move the mission forward? If the answer is no, keep the mouth shut. You will be shocked at how much of your daily communication is actually just a waste of life force. Step 3. Deep work blocks. You are going to schedule 4 hours of deep silence every day. This isn't just quiet time. This is a total communication blackout. Phone in a different room, invisible architecture. Door locked, no input. This is where you do the work that actually matters. This is where the bridge is built. You have a choice. You can have a life of constant connection or a life of extraordinary contribution. You cannot have both. Silence is the highest form of power. Mastering the nervous system. When you embrace silence, your nervous system will initially rebel. You will feel an itch in your brain. You will feel a phantom vibration in your pocket where your phone used to be. You will feel a desperate urge to check in or speak up. This is the narrator trying to regain control. It knows that in the silence, its days are numbered. It knows that when you stop reacting, it loses its job. Stand your ground. Every minute you stay in the silence is a victory for the architect. You are training your brain to find its own rhythm rather than dancing to the beat of the world. You are becoming a silent operator. You are becoming someone who executes without the need for a soundtrack. You don't need their permission to be quiet. People will call you cold. They will call you distant. Let them. Their labels are just more noise. Your silence is your fortress. Silence is the highest form of power. Transformation, the sound of results. The most beautiful sound in the world isn't music. It isn't a pat on the back. It isn't the roar of a crowd. The most beautiful sound is the sound of a completed project hitting the table. It is the sound of a goal met in total silence. When you master the discipline of silence, you become a force of nature. You move through the world with a calm intensity that scares the weak and attracts the strong. You stop being a noisemaker and start being a result getter. It's not about being stoic. It's about discipline. It's about recognizing that every word you say is a brick you can lay. Every reaction you refuse is a minute you can spend on your legacy. Silence is the highest form of power. Transition to the next chapter. You've mastered the quiet. You've shut down the noise and the performance. You are working in the dark, building in silence, and recalibrating your chemistry. You are finally operating at the level of the architect. But there is one final resource we have to manage. You've cleaned the space and quieted the mind. But if you don't master the sequence, the building will still fail. You can have the best tools and the best materials, but if you lay the roof before the foundation, the structure will collapse under its own weight. You've mastered the silence. Now, it's time to master the clock. See you in the next chapter. Chapter 7. The Silent Cost of Maybe. You are paralyzed, not by a lack of opportunity, but by the weight of too many of them. You sit in your chair, staring at your screen or your phone or your mirror, and you say the most dangerous word in the English language, maybe. You think you are being cautious. You think you are evaluating the data. You think you are waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Stop lying to yourself. You aren't being careful. You are being a coward. Maybe is a prison of your own making. It is a state of high cortisol suspension that is rotting your potential from the inside out. While you weigh your options, the world is moving. The architect is building. The hunter is eating. And you are just vibrating in place, leaking energy like a cracked battery. A bad decision is better than no decision. The biological tax, high cortisol suspension. Understand the biology of indecision. When you face a choice, any choice, your brain opens a mental loop. It allocates a certain amount of RAM to that problem. If you decide yes or no, the loop closes, the energy is released, the project moves forward. But when you say maybe, that loop stays open. It stays on in the background, like a dozen tabs open on a laptop that you aren't even looking at. This creates a state of chronic micro-stress. Your adrenal glands drip cortisol into your system because your brain perceives an unresolved threat. You feel a constant, low-level anxiety that you can't quite name. That's the key. Burnout isn't usually caused by working too hard. It's caused by the aggregate weight of 1,000 open loops. It's the email you haven't answered, the conversation you haven't had, the workout you haven't committed to. By the time 3 p.m. hits, you are exhausted. Not because of what you did, but because of what you didn't decide. You have a choice. You can spend your life in this state of mental smog, or you can start closing the loops. A bad decision is better than no decision. The fallacy of the perfect choice. We have been conditioned to believe that there is a right path and a wrong path. This is a myth designed for people who want an excuse to stay in bed. In the world of execution, there is only movement and stagnation. If you make a bad decision, you launch the product and it fails, you hire the person and they quit. You have gained something invaluable, data. You now know exactly what doesn't work. You can pivot, you can course correct, you can steer a moving car, but you cannot steer a parked car. When you stay in maybe, you gain nothing. You lose time, you lose energy, and you lose the most precious resource of all, momentum. It's not about perfection, it's about momentum. The architect doesn't wait for the perfect weather to start laying the foundation. He starts. If it rains, he adjusts. If the ground is harder than expected, he changes his tools. But the work never stops. You don't need their permission to be wrong. You don't need the world's approval to make a mistake. The only thing you should be afraid of is the silence of a life spent considering things. A bad decision is better than no decision. The 2-minute decision rule. If you want to kill the maybe habit, you need a mechanical system. You cannot rely on feeling decisive. You must train your brain to execute. We start with the micro-stressors. Here is your behavioral instruction. Use the 2-minute decision rule. If a choice comes across your desk, your phone, or your mind, and the decision itself takes less than 2 minutes to make, you make it immediately. Should I go to that networking event? Yes or no? Decide now. Should I buy this software? Yes or no? Decide now. Should I reply to this text? Yes or no? Decide now. If it takes more than 2 minutes of deep thought, you schedule a specific block of time to decide. You do not let it float in your head. You put it on the calendar. 2 p.m. Decide on the marketing budget. When 2 p.m. hits, you look at the data you have and you pull the trigger. That's the key. Most of the data you think you're waiting for doesn't exist. You are just waiting for a feeling of certainty that will never come. Certainty is a luxury of the spectator. The player only has probability. You have a choice. You can be a spectator waiting for a guarantee, or you can be a player who bets on themselves. A bad decision is better than no decision. The architect of speed is a competitive advantage. In a world of overthinkers, the person who decides fast wins. Even if they are wrong 30% of the time, they will outpace the careful person by a factor of 10. They are learning 3 times faster. They are failing 3 times faster. They are succeeding 3 times faster. Speed is not the same as recklessness. Recklessness is moving without a goal. Speed is moving despite the uncertainty. It is the discipline of trusting your primary hardware over your secondary fears. It's not about luck, it's about discipline. The discipline to value your time more than your ego. If you make a mistake, you fix it. If you stay in maybe, you die a little bit every day. You don't need their permission to move fast. You don't need to explain to your team or your family why you are suddenly so decisive. You are the architect. You have a blueprint to execute. You don't have time for the luxury of doubt. A bad decision is better than no decision. Transformation. Closing the loops. Tonight, you are going to perform a loop audit. You are going to sit down in the silence we built in Chapter 6 and list every maybe currently living in your brain. The projects you might start, the people you might call, the habits you might change. Look at that list. It is a list of your leaks. It is the reason you are tired. For every item on that list, you are going to make a final decision. Not a soon, not a next week, a yes or a no. If it's a no, you kill it. You delete the file. You throw away the notes. You tell the person, I can't do this. The loop is closed. The energy returns to you. If it's a yes, you take the first physical step immediately. You send the email. You book the flight. You write the first paragraph. That's the key. Maybe is the weight that sinks the ship. Yes and no are the engines that drive it. You have a choice. You can be a heavy ship sitting dead in the water, or you can be a lean, fast vessel that reaches the shore while everyone else is still arguing about the map. A bad decision is better than no decision. The mandate of the now. Stop waiting for a sign. Stop waiting for more information. Stop waiting for your gut to give you a clear signal. Your gut is currently filled with the cortisol of your own indecision. It's a broken compass. The only way to fix the compass is to start moving. Trust the execution. Trust the process. Trust that you are strong enough to handle a bad decision, but realize that you are not strong enough to survive a lifetime of maybe. It's not about the outcome. It's about the habit of decisiveness. Kill the maybe. Close the loops. Become the person who decides. A bad decision is better than no decision. Transition. To the next chapter. You've learned to value speed over perfection. You've closed the loops and stopped the leaks. You are moving faster than you ever have before. The engine is roaring, but as you accelerate, you will encounter a new danger. In your rush to decide, in your drive to execute, you might forget the most powerful tool in the architect's kit. It's the tool that allows you to maintain speed without losing control. It's the tool that separates the frantic from the focused. You've mastered the yes and the no. Now, you must master the space in between. See you in the next chapter. Chapter 8. Trauma is a structural flaw. You wear your scars like they're part of your skin. You think that the pain you endured 10 years ago defines the man or woman you are today. You've turned your trauma into a personality trait. You've made it a badge of honor. You've used it as an excuse for why you can't trust, why you won't commit, or why you're afraid to take a real risk. Stop it. Your trauma is not your identity. It is a structural flaw. If you were building a skyscraper and found a crack in the foundation, you wouldn't celebrate it. You wouldn't tell everyone that the crack is just who the building is. You would fix it. You would reinforce the concrete. You would move on. But you've been staring at the crack for decades, wondering why the roof is leaking. Edit the memory. Own the future. The software glitch. understand the mechanics of memory. Your brain is not a video camera recording objective reality. It is a storyteller. When something painful happens, your brain saves that data under a high priority folder labeled survival. It wants to make sure you never feel that way again. So, it creates a loop. Every time you face a similar situation, the software triggers a glitch. It screams danger when there is only opportunity. This is a localized software glitch. It is not a hardware failure. Your hardware, your capacity for greatness, your ability to execute, your power to lead is still intact, but it's running on corrupted code. You are trying to launch 2026 success on 2010 trauma software. It will never work. That's the key. Trauma isn't what happened to you. Trauma is the story you continue to tell yourself about what happened. It is the uncurated narrative of a child or a victim that you have allowed to survive into your adulthood. You have a choice. You can keep running the old code, or you can rewrite the script, edit the memory, own the future. Data acquisition versus core identity. Let's look at how the elite handle failure. When a world-class athlete loses a championship, or a CEO loses $1 billion company, they don't call it trauma. They call it data acquisition. They don't say, I am a failure. They say, I have acquired data on what leads to a loss. They strip the emotion away from the event until all that is left is the math. They decouple the event from their core identity. To them, the event was an external occurrence, not an internal indictment. Most people do the opposite. They take a betrayal, a bankruptcy, or a public humiliation, and they bake it into their soul. They let the external noise become an internal echo. They treat a localized flaw as a total structural collapse. It's not about the pain, it's about the interpretation. If you interpret your past as a series of lessons, you are a student. If you interpret it as a series of wounds, you are a victim. The architect is never a victim. The architect is an analyst. You don't need their permission to stop being a victim. You don't need an apology from the person who hurt you to start healing. Waiting for an apology is just another way of giving them power over your clock. They've already taken your past. Don't let them have your future too. Edit the memory. Own the future. Behavioral instructions. The structural reinforcement. If you want to fix the flaw, you have to get clinical. You have to stop feeling your way through your history and start editing it. Step 1. The cold audit. Write down the top 3 events you consider traumatic. Now rewrite those stories using only objective, non-emotional language. Remove words like unfair, betrayal, or pain. Instead of, my business partner stabbed me in the back, write, the partnership dissolved due to misaligned incentives and a breach of contract. Strip the narrative until it is just data. Step 2. The data extraction. For each event, ask yourself, what is the one piece of technical information I gained from this? Maybe it's, I need better legal contracts. Maybe it's, I need to vet people for 12 months before trusting them. That piece of data is your dividend. The rest, the hurt, the anger, the shame, is trash. Throw it away. Step 3. The identity pivot. Every time the old loop starts to play, the voice that says, this is happening again, interrupt it with a physical movement, the 5-second rule. Then state the new fact. That was data. This is execution. You are retraining your nervous system to stay in the present. That's the key. You are not getting over it. You are outgrowing it. You are building a structure so massive and so strong that the old cracks in the basement no longer matter. Edit the memory. Own the future. The cost of the badge. Why do you hold on to it? For some of you, your trauma is a comfort. It's a shield. It gives you a reason to play small. It earns you sympathy. It makes you feel special. But sympathy is the lowest form of social currency. It doesn't pay the mortgage. It doesn't build the legacy. When you use your past as a badge, you are telling the world that you are finished. You are saying that the most interesting thing about you has already happened. Is that what you want? To be a museum of your own misery? It's not about what you lost. It's about what you're building. The architect doesn't care about the rubble of the old building. He only cares about the blueprint of the new one. You have a choice. You can be a monument to your pain, or you can be an engine of your potential. You cannot be both. Edit the memory. Own the future. Rewriting the blueprint. Your past is just a library. It is filled with books on how not to do things. Some of those books were written in blood. Some were written in tears. That makes them expensive, and that makes them valuable. But you don't live in the library. You visit the library, you take the information you need, and then you leave. The structural flaw only exists as long as you refuse to repair it. The moment you decide to view your history as a series of data points, the flaw disappears. The memory remains, but the weight is gone. You are no longer running on corrupted code. You are running on the pure, unadulterated drive of the architect. You don't need their permission to be whole. You don't need a therapist's okay to decide that you are no longer defined by your childhood. You are a grown adult with a hammer in your hand. Start swinging. Edit the memory. Own the future. Transformation. The future is unwritten. The past is a fixed point. You can't change the events, but the future is a fluid variable, and it is controlled entirely by the meaning you give to the past. If you decide that your trauma made you a warrior, you will fight. If you decide it made you a broken person, you will stay broken. The event is neutral. The interpretation is the weapon. Choose your weapon wisely. That's the key. You are the author. You are the architect. You are the one holding the pen. If you don't like the story of Chapter 8, rewrite it in Chapter 9. Edit the memory. Own the future. Transition to the next chapter. You've repaired the foundation. You've stopped the leaks. You've edited the memory and reclaimed your hardware. You are finally running at full capacity, unburdened by the ghosts of what used to be. But now that the machine is running hot, you need to know how to fuel it for the long haul. You have the speed, you have the silence, and you have the strength. Now, you need the stamina. You need to understand the true cost of the life you're building. You mastered your past. Now, let's talk about the only limit that truly remains. See you in the next chapter. Chapter 9. The 24-Hour Blueprint. Chapter 9. The 24-Hour Blueprint. You're obsessed with the big picture. You're dreaming about the yacht, the empire, or the legacy that's 10 years away. You spend your nights scrolling through inspirational quotes, imagining the person you're going to be. Stop it. The 10-year version of you is a ghost. The only version of you that exists is the one currently breathing, and that version is failing because you have no structural integrity in your day. You are a ship without a rudder, wondering why you're just spinning in circles. Your 30-day transformation is won or lost in the first 60 minutes of every morning and the last 30 minutes of every night. If you cannot control these windows, you cannot control your life. Win the morning, rule the day. The cognitive hijack. The moment you wake up, your brain is in its most suggestive state. You are transitioning from sleep to alertness. This is when the architect should be setting the blueprint for the next 16 hours. But what do? You reach for your phone. You check the news. You check your emails. You check social media. In less than 60 seconds, you have allowed the entire world to hijack your consciousness. You are reacting to the outrage of a stranger, the demands of your boss, or the highlight reel of a competitor. You have surrendered your most valuable cognitive territory before you've even brushed your teeth. That's the key. When you start your day in a reactive state, you stay in a reactive state. You spend the rest of your afternoon playing defense. You are putting out fires that other people started. You are a servant to the noise we discussed in Chapter 6. You have a choice. You can be the pawn of the algorithm, or you can be the commander of your morning. Win the morning, rule the day. The bookending strategy. High performers, the elite CEOs, the special forces operators, the world-class creators, don't leave their energy to chance. They use a technique called bookending. They realize that the middle of the day is often chaotic and unpredictable. Fires will happen, emergencies will arise, but the books, the start and the end, are theirs to own. The morning bookend is about injection. You are injecting intent into your nervous system. The evening bookend is about extraction. You are extracting the stress of the day so you can recover. It's not about motivation. It's about structural discipline. You don't need to feel like following the blueprint. You just need to realize that the blueprint is the only thing standing between you and a life of mediocre reactions. You don't need their permission to be unavailable. You don't need to apologize for not answering a text at 6:30 a.m. or 10:30 p.m. Those hours belong to the architect. If people are offended by your boundaries, it's because they are currently benefiting from your lack of them. Win the morning, rule the day. Behavioral instructions. The 60-minute AM inversion. From this moment forward, the first hour of your day is a hard-locked zone. No inputs, no screens, no exceptions. Step 1. The phone exile. Your phone stays in another room. It is not your alarm clock. Buy a $10 analog clock. If your phone is the first thing you touch, you have already lost. Step 2. The physical ignition. Within 10 minutes of waking, you must move. I don't care if it's a 5-minute walk, 50 push-ups, or a cold shower. You are telling your biology that the day has begun, and you are the one in charge of the throttle. Step 3. The blueprint review. Spend 10 minutes in silence. Chapter 6. Review your top 3. Not 20 things. 3. What are the 3 things that, if completed, make today a win? Write them down by hand. This is you setting the North Star for your brain. That's the key. By the time you finally open your phone or your laptop, you are already a moving train. The world can scream all it wants, but it cannot derail a train that already has its own momentum. Win the morning, rule the day. Behavioral instructions. The 30-minute PM extraction. Most people treat sleep like a light switch. They stay stimulated until the moment they hit the pillow, then wonder why they have insomnia. Your brain is a high-performance engine. It needs a cool-down lap. Step 1. The digital sunset. 30 minutes before bed, all screens go dark. The blue light is a chemical signal to your brain that it's still noon. You are lying to your biology. Stop it. Step 2. the loop closure. Remember Chapter 7? Indecision is an energy leak. Use these 30 minutes to close the loops of the day. Write down everything you didn't finish. Move it to tomorrow's list. Get the maybe out of your head and onto the paper. Step 3. The environment reset. Look at Chapter 4. Set the default for tomorrow. Lay out your clothes. Clear your desk. Make it so easy to win tomorrow that your narrator has no room to argue. It's not about pampering yourself. It's about discipline. It's about ensuring that your recovery is as efficient as your execution. Win the morning. Rule the day. The cost of a broken blueprint. If you skip one morning, you might survive. If you skip a week, you have a habit of failure. Every time you snooze the alarm, you are making a contract with yourself to be mediocre. You are telling your subconscious that your goals aren't worth the discomfort of getting out of bed. You have a choice. You can build a reputation with yourself as someone who keeps their word, or as someone who folds the moment things get difficult. That's the key. The 24-hour blueprint isn't about being a morning person. I don't care what time you wake up. I care what you do when you wake up. I care that you are the one holding the pen for the first and last pages of your day. You don't need their permission to be obsessed with your routine. People will call you rigid. They will tell you to relax. These people are usually the ones who are wondering why their lives haven't changed in 5 years. Ignore them. Their opinions are noise. Your results are signal. Win the morning, rule the day. Transformation, the 30-day compound. If you follow this blueprint for 30 days, you will have had 30 hours of focused, proactive intent before the world even started talking to you. You will have had 15 hours of clean, structural recovery, while everyone else is waking up in a panic and going to bed in a fog. You are operating with surgical precision. You aren't finding time. You are building it. You are the architect of your own clock. It's not about the clock. It's about discipline. The discipline to protect the books of your day. Win the morning. Rule the day. Transition. To the next chapter, you've mastered the morning. You've owned the night. You've built a rudder for your ship. And you are finally moving with intent. You are winning the 24-hour cycle. But as you begin to rule your day, you will realize that you are not alone. You exist in a social ecosystem. And the moment you start winning, the people around you will start to feel uncomfortable. They will try to pull you back into the noise. They will try to use your old self against you. You mastered your time. Now we have to master your circle. See you in the next chapter. Chapter 10. Become the architect. You've reached the end of the information. You've listened to the strategies. You've looked at the blueprints. You've heard the arguments for killing your narrator, auditing your dopamine, and redesigning your environment. Most people will stop here. They will close this book, feel a brief surge of inspiration, and then slowly sink back into the warm, suffocating mud of their old habits. They are professional consumers. They collect ideas like trophies they never intended to use. I'm telling you to stop being a consumer. I'm telling you that the time for learning is over. The time for building has begun. You are no longer a victim of your impulses. You are no longer a passenger in a body driven by a billion-year-old survival engine. You have been handed the tools. You have seen the cracks in the foundation. Now you must take the hammer. You are the builder and the building. The death of the victim mastery is not a destination. It is a transition. It is the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How am I designing my reaction to this?" The victim lives in a world of accidents. The victim thinks their mood is determined by the weather, their focus is determined by their notifications, and their future is determined by their past. The architect knows better. The architect understands that everything, every thought, every environment, every social circle is a choice. If the structure of your life is weak, it's because you chose weak materials. If your mind is cluttered, it's because you allowed the trash to be brought inside. That's the key. You are responsible for every square inch of your reality. This isn't a burden. It is the ultimate liberation. If you built it, you can tear it down. If you designed it, you can redesign it. It's not about your personality. It's about discipline. The discipline to stop blaming the world and start checking the blueprint. You are the builder and the building, the consumer trap. We live in a consumer culture. You are encouraged to watch, to listen, to scroll, and to buy. You are conditioned to believe that the next book, the next podcast, or the next hack will finally be the thing that changes you. Listen to me. Information is not transformation. Transformation is the result of focused, repetitive, and often boring action. Reading about architecture doesn't put a roof over your head. Laying bricks does. You don't need their permission to stop being a student. You don't need another certification. You don't need another how-to guide. You already know what to do. You know you need to silence the noise. You know you need to control your chemistry. You know you need to move in silence. You have a choice. You can remain a spectator of your own potential, or you can become a creator of your own reality. A consumer looks at a finished bridge and wonders how it got there. An architect looks at a gap and starts calculating the load-bearing requirements. You are the builder and the building. The mechanics of mastery. How do you know when the transition is complete? You know when your reactions become conscious. When someone insults you, the old narrator wants to scream back. The architect pauses. The architect looks at the insult as external noise, Chapter 6, and decides it doesn't fit the structural integrity of the mission. The architect stays silent. When you feel the urge to procrastinate, the old victim wants to check the phone. The architect recognizes the dopamine trap, Chapter 3, and chooses the earned spike of deep work instead. That's the key. Mastery is the gap between stimulus and response. In that gap, you exercise your power as the designer. You stop reacting and start executing. It's not about feeling like an architect. It's about discipline. It's about doing the work even when the narrator is screaming that it's too hard or too late or too lonely. You don't need their permission to be different. You don't need your friends to validate your new, quiet intensity. You are building a skyscraper in a neighborhood of shacks. People are going to be uncomfortable. Let them. Your job is not to make them comfortable. Your job is to finish the build. You are the builder and the building. Behavioral instructions, the final handover. The training wheels are off. From this moment forward, you are the lead contractor on the project of your life. Step 1. Terminate the search. Stop looking for new information for the next 90 days. You have the 24-hour blueprint. You have the dopamine audit. You have the silence mandate. Use them. If you spend your time looking for better ideas, you are just procrastinating on the work you already have. Step 2. The daily inspection. Every night, Chapter 9, ask yourself one question. Did I follow the blueprint today, or did I let the narrator drive? If you failed, adjust the friction, chapter 4, and try again tomorrow. No drama, no self-pity, just data and adjustment. Step 3. Move the heavy stones. Stop focusing on the paint colors of your life. Stop worrying about the small details. Focus on the structural beams, your health, your work, and your character. If these 3 things are solid, the rest will take care of itself. You have a choice. You can be a pile of raw materials, potential, talent, and dreams scattered on the ground. Or you can be a finished, undeniable structure. That's the key. The world doesn't care what you could have been. The world only cares about what you built. You are the builder and the building. The blueprint for a legacy. You were not born to be a consumer. You were not born to be a reactive biological machine. You were born to be an architect. You have the ability to look at nothingness and see something. You have the ability to take the chaos of your past, chapter 8, and turn it into the foundation of your future. But this power requires a price. The price is total ownership. You must own your failures. You must own your silence. You must own your time. You must realize that every second you spend seeking validation is a second you are not building. It's not about the destination. It's about the discipline. The discipline to wake up every morning and realize that you are the one holding the hammer. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to build it for you. And frankly, you don't want them to. Because when the bridge is finished and you walk across it into the life you've designed, you will know that every inch of it belongs to you. You don't need their permission. You are the architect. You are the builder and the building. Final conclusion. This is the end of the book. It is the beginning of your execution. You have the knowledge. You have the strategy. You have the tough love. The narrator is dead. The environment is set. The chemistry is clean. The silence is yours. Now walk out onto the site. Look at the horizon. Pick up your tools and don't stop until the structure matches the vision. You are the builder and the building. Final word. The 30-day mandate. You have listened to the blueprints. You have audited your chemistry. You have redesigned your world. The information is now inside you. But information without execution is just mental masturbation. It's a way for your narrator to feel productive while you remain stagnant. From this moment on, you are no longer a student. You are a practitioner. The 30-day mandate is simple. Stop searching. Delete the podcasts. Close the self-help tabs. Stop looking for one more tip. You have everything you need. Execute the books. Own the first 60 minutes and the last 30 minutes of your day. No exceptions. Stay in the silence. Do not tell people what you are doing. Let your results scream so loud that you don't have to whisper. That's the key. In 30 days, you won't recognize the person who started this book. You will have built a structure that can weather any storm. You will have mastered the invisible architecture of your life. You have a choice. You can be a ghost of your potential, or you can be the architect of your legacy. You are the builder and the building. Outro, the next phase. The construction of your character never truly ends. If you have found value in these blueprints, if you are ready to take this discipline and apply it to the grander stage of the world, then your journey is just beginning. Our next deep dive is already waiting for you. We are moving from internal architecture to external dominance. Coming soon, how to win in life. In that series, we take these foundations and use them to conquer. If you are ready to stop surviving and start winning, make sure you don't miss a single chapter. If this spoke to the architect within you, show it. Like this video to signal the algorithm that discipline matters. Comment below with the words, "I am the architect," to lock in your 30-day mandate. Share this with one person who is currently a victim of their own noise. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you are the first on site when How to Win in Life drops. The narrator is dead. The architect is awake. Now, go build.